Hello. Welcome back to another chapter of The Stars Above. I apologize in advance if you suffer from motion sickness or anything of the sort, because my tripod is swaying to and fro, beebing and waving, beebe, weaving and bobbing in the wind, weaving and bobbing in the wind. And so if you are, prone to motion sickness, and so should you need to vomit profusely, please take the time to do so. Today's chapter, I believe we are on chapter 16, if I'm correct. Yes, 16. Chapter 16 is called Masks, Drugs, and Rock and Roll. So I figured it would make sense to have today's sponsor be ski masks. As you can see, I'm wearing my ski mask. Ski masks have many different uses. Some people use them for skiing, and then other people use them for robbing. So I suppose there's not many uses for them. I suppose there's only two: skiing and robbing. Because when you ski, it keeps your face warm. You're more protected from the elements. But when you are robbing, it conceals your identity. Whether it be face-to-face interaction or over video surveillance, either way, it's going to make it a lot more difficult for the police to identify the assailant when their face is concealed by a ski mask. So whatever it might be, whether mini marts, liquor stores, banks, trains, ski masks are one of the most vital necessities to any heist. I'm not promoting being a heister or a schemer or anything like that, but should you wish to go about it, ski masks are definitely one way to do that. So yeah, today's sponsor, ski masks. Also, I'd like to give a honorary mention to licorice. Licorice is one of my favorite foods. I've been out here nearly 2 weeks now, surviving nearly solely off of licorice and pickles. So it just goes to show that the whole food pyramid is bullshit, because I haven't really had any grains, protein, fruits, dairy products. I've survived solely off of sugar and vegetable, So I've got one of the food groups from the pyramid in there with vegetables, and the vinegar and salt of the pickles really helps you stay hydrated, retain electrolytes out in the desert. I'm honestly thinking about getting into mukbangs. I've recently discovered mukbangs. I think they're absolutely insufferable. I think it's fucking grotesque. And the people that do it should be fucking ashamed of themselves. But that's just me. But for that reason, and it's because I have so much time to kill out here, I wake up at fucking 5:30 in the morning. Why not get into some other ventures on YouTube? I can be more than just a storyteller. I can do mukbang with pickles and licorice, and I can do some ASMR. I gotta grow my nails out a little bit while I'm out here, and then do this against things. ASMR. I can do that. I could literally be professional at that, whatever that is. So just stuff I'm thinking about while I'm out here, I'm sure that there are other, maybe I could do survivalist videos, teach people how to be a survivalist in the wilderness. Because I see a lot of these survivalists talking about things you need and things you should eat out in the desert. And I think it's all propaganda. Because as you can see, I'm challenging the status quo. And I'm surviving just fine. I probably did ASMR just talking about ASMR because I was eating. See? ASMR and mukbang, double insufferable, because you probably got fucking annoyed, Perfect. I'm already a professional at this. Okay. Chapter 16. Masks, drugs, and rock and roll. Being under our mother's roof seemed to be the end of a tragic era. But while that man may have lost dominion over us, his presence persisted. To a narcissistic sociopath, losing control is losing oneself entirely. He was given visitation rights. However, we often fought or ran from home to prevent being taken. Days he did receive were spent in attempts to manipulate Evan and I into testifying against the abuse, if only to clear the reputation of his name in court. He was an extraordinarily powerful person, whom even the great state of California had been trying to take down for years. To put simply, clinical insanity wasn't what he'd been trying to diagnose and treat. It was the brutalizing harm inflicted on every person he ever stood before to feed upon. It wasn't long before investigative journalists began knocking at our door. We'd become a poster family for psychological trauma, and answers were sought in us for his wrongdoings. At 13, I was subjected to countless interviews, having to revisit the past while reintroduced to the pain it caused. "What was it like under his care?" they'd ask. "What kind of abuse did you suffer through? Can you recall the patient treatments and describe the ongoings within his practice?" They'd been ignorant to my fragility while salting fresh wounds. Eventually, that man began using his other children as a means for manipulation. My step-siblings would reach out saddened by our absence in their lives, declaring a love which further skewed any sense of understanding the word. They'd pick me up and drive to a house where that man awaited my arrival, hungering to feed on any sliver of emotion which remained. It seemed that any ounce of trust given to another was taken a mile and dropped off a cliff. The sense of betrayal and fear ran rampant. The weight of that man's presence, even from afar, never seemed to fade. Everything I did and said was done so looking over my shoulder, feeling him there. A few years passed before he'd used the death of his mother as an in. "Your grandmother doesn't have much left in her," he'd tell me, "and her only dying wish is to see you." This time around he carried a softer tone, had promising words and a calm demeanor, wishing to move forward in healthier ways to rebuild a relationship. I was still a sad and impressionable boy on the inside, who longed to be taught how to play catch, ride a bike, or shave without cutting himself. It was strange. That man whom I hated from the darkest parts of my soul, who put my family through an inescapable hell, and never once in my entire existence said that he loved me, was still someone whose acceptance I painfully yearned for as a father to his son. After visiting his mother in the hospital, he spent the following weeks trying to reform a connection. The web now being spun was warm and inviting. That is, until the moment he saw I'd clung to it willingly, and time had come to feed. "It's been so great spending these days with you, son," he'd tell me over lunch. Hearing him call me by that word, son, was like being born anew, baptized of resentment, fear, and hatred. "I think so too, Dad," I said with endearment. "Look at this," he proclaimed. "Sure, we had our differences, but that's all behind us now, right, bud? Say, think you could do something for me?" "What's that?" "I just need you to testify against some things for me in court. Clear the air on the abuse. You know it wasn't true." There it was, the smoking gun. I should have known the measures taken, and in places of desperation he'd stoop, but I was naive. He played the sympathy card, took advantage of my remaining compassion, and pressed a psychological blade firm against my throat. He asked it so casually, as if the unending torment was just some simple misunderstanding, like a feverish dream of mine. Once again, that love eternally longed for was crumpled up, tossed to the bin, and taken to the curb. In that moment, I was consumed by an eternity of malice, itching to dig my nails deep into his neck and rip his goddamn throat out where he sat, like a Mortal Kombat finishing move. Fatality. I stood without hesitation, kept silent, walked out, and never looked back. It's been over 2 decades since that day, an endless span of time enduring the fiery pits of perdition in search of salvation. But as a wiser man, I've come to realize that I was never born into hell, nor raised by the devil, but willingly chose to carry the construct of damnation in my heart, a realm bound by fear and plagued with darkness, where we seek light gone unbeknownst as our own. A burden no longer carried, having not only forgiven that man, but myself for the blame bestowed and resentment held. It's only in the conscious choice and conviction to forgive that we may conquer suffering and walk a path of righteousness. These days, I'm able to laugh about how that rat bastard son of a bitch duped me good. No different from the ghoul who pleasure probed me where the sun don't shine. Peace has been found in the merciless atrocities committed by that man. After the children's home, returning to a school where we'd been ostracized was difficult. So, Evan and I were transferred, having begun a new life in a place nobody knew anything about me. Trauma weighed heavily, and I feared the judgment of my circumstances. If wishing to make friends and fit the social norm of a cookie-cutter environment, I'd have to hide my real face and don those masks of illusion. Without passions, hobbies, or interests in anything, I began to mimic others. Music was an easy way to fit in, having listened to what was popular, bands like Green Day, AFI, Silver Sun Pickups, and Jimmy Eat World. In the early 2000s, emo was all the rage. This wound up being perfect, considering there was no need to pretend like some poser. I was already damaged goods. Access to the internet gave me an understanding of pop culture, what fads were in, and how to dress cool enough to meet everyone else's standards. Without any grip towards what identity could possibly mean, I became a lemming. While attempting to make actual friends for the first time, severe trust issues got in the way of developing healthy relationships of any sort. This caused expectations to be made towards others that I never understood could not be met. In turn, they inevitably found ways of letting me down. That word, friend, just became nicer sounding to the ear than acquaintance. Relying on myself was better than lending faith to someone who had no idea who I really was. This made things much easier when each moment arrived to walk away, having grown familiar with goodbyes in the saddest of ways. I know now that some relationships formed, and the bonds we share should be kept precious. They aren't at the side of those who will try and make things easy for us, but honesty hasn't ever been easy, and that's why they're referred to as family. Instruction from authoritative figures was still an issue, having been placed into the school's lifeboat program for slow learners. Our teacher, whose favorite word was audacity, expressed that the vessel was to signify our class of unquestionably autistic delinquents wouldn't drown to our own inabilities. Joke's on him. You can't enslave students to the idea of a promising future if they're dumb as doornails. While doing a decent enough job thus far pretending to be an average kid, I still felt like an alley cat feeding on the dumpster scraps of Chinese takeout. Regardless of efforts towards normality, life at home hadn't gotten better, and my mother was rapidly declining. She had no grip on responsibility when it came to raising us on our own, which made forcing any semblance of structure non-existent. A serious lack of discipline led to her becoming a pushover whose main concern was keeping her kids happy. "There's nothing to eat, Mom. I'm hungry," I'd say. "Order a pizza, or whatever, anything you want," she'd reply. "I don't want to go to bed, Mom." "Okay, just stay up and watch TV until you're ready to fall asleep." "I don't want to go to school today, Mom. Don't feel like it." "Well, I'll call them and let them know you're too sick to come in." These back and forths were without resistance. My mother had zero confidence in her ability to say no, fearing a strict approach would leave us resentful, this having an adverse effect. She didn't know a thing about being an actual parent, let alone possess the mental or emotional stability for it. She may have given us all the love in her heart, but that means nothing without proper guidance. My mother lacked the tools necessary to be there for us internally, help process trauma, and ease our mind. This wasn't her fault. You can't give what you don't have. However, she was abundant in depression, anxiety, pain, mental illness, and addiction. And now there were 2 boys under her care, developing those same extremes, following in her footsteps. As one tends to, she sought ways to cope, and it wasn't long before I discovered them. I saw the lines of blow needed to push through long nights at the office, just to earn a decent buck. I found the glass pipes and syringes used to smoke crystal or shoot smack, to find peace anywhere else. I'd happen upon the countless pills for every which occasion. Adderall and Ritalin to come up, Xanax and Somas to level out, Norco and Vicodin to ease the pain. It didn't matter the substance. If it helped subdue suffering, she'd use it. I never questioned her, nor begged she'd kick the shit. My mother was doing her best, and while that probably wasn't even close to good enough, we 3 had each other. That's what mattered. She was like a walking pharmacy, and it was seeing the relief substances brought that led to my pocketing her stash. I began popping pills found in the medicine cabinet or purse, after taking whiffs of her cherry blossom perfume and the sweet aroma of figs and packs of Marlboro Red. I'd grab any bottle of multicolored coping candy in sight, having taken just enough to go unnoticed. I didn't know what they'd been at first, but the highs were killer. The pinks, full release, total apathy. The whites, euphoric numbing. The yellow and blues, clarity and energetic kick. If they could provide peace of mind while freeing an insufferable agony, why wouldn't I help myself to them? They were all that could. Whatever made me feel too weird were psych meds and not cared for. Lithium, Thorazine, or Geodon. Pills found stacked to the ceiling in sample packs of that man's office. I was hooked and dependent on amphetamines, opioids, and benzos all before my freshman year of high school. I'd get caught for it eventually, but my mother understood all too well, just as she had at my age. "How long have you been taking these from me?" she asked. "I don't know," I replied. "A month, maybe." "Are they helping?" "Yeah." "Which ones have you taken?" "All of them." "Jesus, Icarus," she laughed. "I'm sorry." "It's okay, but you gotta be careful. You can't mix them up or take too many at the same time. Certain ones do different things." She'd go on to describe their effects, why she took them, and how they could help me. "It feels better, doesn't it, Icarus?" she asked. "Takes it all away. Allows you to forget." I agreed. But the thing is, they don't necessarily do a better job of making you feel good. They do a tremendous job of leaving you to feel nothing at all. And everything you wish to forget becomes buried further within, aching to resurface. It was a cruel and slippery slope for the unsuspecting addict in the making. Whatever the hell you can do to get by, right? I'd get bad, and she got me good again. It's a whole lot easier to score a fix from your mother at age 14 than a drug dealer. We'd get loaded together, knock back into the void of painlessness. a gaping maw of emotional apathy, and melt into the vibrational waves of all her favorite music. She'd lay on the bed staring to the ceiling and take smooth drags off a red, exhaling psychedelic clouds. One day she'd pass me the cigarette. "Don't act like you aren't swiping these too," she said. "I can count, you know." I'd raise it to my lips, able to taste her lipstick. "Relax your hand, Icarus," she said, chuckling. "Only sissy boy pansies hold their grit stiff. Can't smoke reds lest you're a cowboy." During this time is when I got into real bands, having listened to her jams. Alice in Chains, Floyd, Hendrix, Sabbath, The Doors, Neil Young, and so on. She was rock and roll, baby, and we were rock and roll together. God only knows what constitutes Mother of the Year awards, but she'd have my vote any day of the week. Celine rather enjoyed poking fun at my taste in music after meeting, having played a lot of upbeat synth or electronic tunes at the time. The kind of music listened to at ear-raping levels through a muffling bathroom door, dressed in a polyester button-down and flared slacks, bent over a toilet seat while snorting an entire ring of Colombian Bam Bam as you scream, "Anyone else looking to get in on the fucking 80s?" I appreciated her banter, but, to be honest, it was hard for me to listen to Celine's music at such a fragile point in my life, because so many of her favorites were those of my mother's. Call it unhealthy, but those days spent at my mother's side, spun the fuck out, were nothing short of beautiful. It was as if those worlds I'd created became shared with her in some way. It felt of riding a royal carousel, atop bobbing giraffes and stoned horses, as dazzling lights swirled like stars on an acid night. That remarkable place without change, unmoved from time, where it was only us, scratching away at the skin. Watching with each merry-go-around as the sideshow freaks and world's carnival of lies slowly passed us by. A magnificent carousel, yet one you couldn't step down from, for in doing so would be from a place of comfort to one of pain, through the curtains hung and back into a dark world crashing over. That dreadful place you'd have to don the masks, becoming no more than an idea, an illusory concept of what they'd always represented. Self-avoidance strong as any fucking drug. Drugs are bad, okay? There are fun ones, and then there are bad ones. I think most of the ones in this chapter are bad. I really do love licorice. I don't know what it is about it, but I think it's in my top 5 favorite foods. I think number 1 is movie theater popcorn. I have a very strategic way of going about movie theater popcorn. I order the extra large, which comes with a refill, and I get 2 of the foldable boxes to share, but don't get it twisted, I'm not sharing. And I layer the popcorn into the foldable boxes. 1 layer, you press the butter machine. You have to go to AMC, I believe, only provides the butter machine. Layer the butter, another layer of popcorn, layer the butter, salt, another layer, butter, salt. Repeat this process over the course of the 2 foldable share boxes. Return to the counter before the movie starts. Get your refill. Repeat the process a second time. You now are fully stocked for the entire movie. And you better believe I'm eating both extra large tubs within my 4 share boxes, of which I am not sharing, with a Coke Zero because calories. We can do that, add that to the mukbang, you know, at a later point in time. Hell, we can even do it inside of a movie theater, because if you're insufferable enough to make fucking mukbangs, why not do it in a place where you're going to annoy the fuck out of everyone in the theater, you know, and then double insufferable. Jesus fucking Christ. And then the background noise of all the people yelling at you, complaining, telling you to shut the hell up, that's like the ASMR. So now we're doing 3 videos at once. You know? We'll lower the volume of the people yelling so that it's more in I don't know, more appropriate for ASMR. I know ASMR is like very quiet or whatever. We'll be like, shut the hell up, you bastard. Nobody wants to hear you eat popcorn. Stupid fucking mukbanger. I think that'll be great. Anyway, another plan for another day. Because for now, we're reading beautiful chapters from The Stars Above. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm really excited about next time. At least I think I am. I'm not sure exactly what chapter it is. I hope it's not a super sad one, but who knows? It could be. Until next time, y'all.